Hello, welcome back to the continuing lecture in business math. Um, this is the first topic, simple interest and simple discount. Uh, Welcome back to the second video in this series, in this lecture series. In our last class, I demonstrated finding the future, how you find the future value using simple interest, and how we find the interest as well. You can find interest first, right, by using this formula, right, or you can find also a future value first, by using this formula, right? Let me undo that one, and oops. Okay, but either if you find interest first, then you can find future value by using, because the definition of future value is principal plus interest. You can get the future value by adding these two, right? By adding these two, right? Or if you find the future value first, then you can find the interest later by making, by subtracting a principal from future value, because that's the because that's how that's the definition of future value, principal plus interest. So then interest is future value minus principal, right? Or vice versa, right? You can, you can find, if you know interest and if you know future value, then you can find principal by subtracting interest from future value, right? Now, but one very fundamental thing that you have to keep in mind is this is just a exercise, right? In other words, this is just exercises, right? In other words, in reality, I've been telling you from the last video, in reality, in simple interest is only used in the short run, right? In money market. In other words, when the maturity is less than 1 year. And if maturity is longer than 1 year, like the examples that we have used, then it's really not in simple interest. You have to use compound interest, right? Compound interest rate. So bear in mind, although we're gonna get to compound interest in the second topic, until then, just bear in mind that we are simply assuming that we can use simple interest even in the long-term maturity, just for the purpose of our exercises, right? All righty. So then, next question is, so in reality, since simple interest is used only for the money market, right? Where the maturity is less than 1 year. So let's actually look into an example of the actual money market. So here, what if time is less than 1 year, right? Or not in whole years, right? What if time is or not in whole years, right? So for example, let's take a look at this example, and I'm gonna let's do this. I'll just delete these rows. So suppose you're borrowing or lending, you can put yourself in a lender's position or borrower's position. Anyway, it's, interest is the same thing. The principal, you borrow $1,000, right? At 6% interest rate for 180 days. 180 days is, we all know, half a year. You might say it's not exactly half a year because 1 year is 365 days. That's true. To be exact, then half a year is 182 days, 182.5 days. But in simple interest, right, there are two types of years. One is ordinary interest year, and the other one is exact interest year. Ordinary interest year, right? In ordinary interest year, 1 year is 1 year is equal to 360 days, and in exact interest year, 1 year is 365 days. So when the time is not in the whole years, all you need to do is, let's say 180 days or 13 weeks, or if the time is expressed in months or weeks or days, right? Under 1 year, right? All you need to do is convert those days into years, right? So all you need to do is, first, you will divide that 180 days by ordinary interest year, which is 360. Okay. Now, you can do the same. So then it's exactly half year. You can do the same with the exact interest year. All you need to do is just copy and drag it down. And there you go. So if it is exact interest year, it's going to be 365 days. Okay. And then it's going to be in years, right? 180 days will be 0.49 years. Now, it's very important to use, 2 decimal places, at least, 2 to 3 decimal places. Why? I'm going to explain that later. But let's calculate this interest now. So interest is what? P times R times T. So P times R times T is this. In T years, T must be in years. Why? You cannot multiply it by 180 because it's in days, but computer doesn't know if it is in days or if it is in years. So if you multiply it by C18, that's going to be like, 180 multiplying by 180 years, right? And that's the reason you put another column, right, to convert days into years. Make sense? So this is, obviously, very, this is, critical thinking, but, on a very basic level, right? And you might say, well, isn't it obvious, what kind of fool would, but multiply it by 180? But trust me, a lot of students just mindlessly just, copy, they don't think that they don't make any distinction. I mean, they don't see that there's a difference between days and, I mean, time is expressed in days here, right? In this problem, it is your responsibility to convert it into years. Make sense? And there you go. Then that's the interest for 180 days when using ordinary interest year. And this is, the interest if you're using exact interest here. And think about it. By the name already, ordinary means ordinarily you use this, right? This is what you use ordinarily, right? So ordinary interest here is the default, okay? An exact interest here exact interest here is when you use exact interest here only if the problem specified it, the problem specifically instructed to use exact interest here. Okay, we're gonna come back to why this distinction is necessary, and who there must be winners and losers in each case. So we're gonna come back to that later, but for now we're gonna basically we're gonna assume that everything is ordinary, right, by default, unless otherwise. Another example we can, it's just repetition, but let's try this again. Of course, I want you to, when you do this exercise and when you replicate or emulate this exercise, I want you to delete the solution cells in the first place, right? Delete the solution cells. And there are one thing you have to also remember is that the highlights, right? These colors have meanings. First of all, the yellow highlight is the primary solution cell. So this is our main solution, right? Whatever is indicated by yellow highlight is the main solution, and the olive green or the drab. I'm sure I mentioned this in the first video. Is the intermediate calculation or secondary solution. Now, and when calculating, right? When calculating, for example, some people never get this. I mean, because they never follow my instruction, or they never carefully listen to the lecture. They never, they don't closely follow the lecture, and then they just try to do it the way the only way they understand. But What I'm saying is, when you're solving, problems like this, some people do it like this. If you turn 125 days into years in ordinary interest year, they are doing this, right? This is called hard coding. That means, it's uh, the data, the numerical value is coded in hard form, right, into the formula. Then there's a problem. You cannot, you get the result, but you cannot copy and paste it. It's going to be always like that. Look, I mean, the second row is for what? If the first row is for converting days into ordinary year, right? And the second row is for converting it into exact year, right? And then some people, and obviously this is not the ordinary exact year, then you will have to manually make the adjustment. How inconvenient and how unrewarding. And I'm teaching this, I'm teaching how you can formulate the problem, formulate the model, right, into Excel. In other words, you will need to, you are basically coding the formula into Excel, right? And the purpose is, if you do it on Excel, you can replicate it over and over and over. In other words, as long as the you're dealing with the problems of the same pattern, you maximize your efficiency because you don't have to do every problem all over again. You don't have to do it anew, right? So the point is, if learning how to soft code, right? And soft coding, if I soft coded it, right? In other words, what does that mean? You you have to have separate data table. There's a data in separate tables, right? And then all you need to do for the solution is just put the formula in it, right? By putting the formula in it, right, you can simply copy and paste the formula in, right? And then you don't have to start all over again for every problem, right? You don't have to. Now, it's just two examples here. It doesn't take that much time, even if you're actually hard coding. But then if you have like 20 problems like this, are you going to do it, one by one like that, enter manually the number? I mean, these numbers are already, in there. You can simply point to that, right? You don't have to manually, retype it. That's just, stupid, isn't that right? It's just a waste of time. Mm-hmm. So, but I don't have to even, stress this because smart people instantaneously gets the idea, right? But I'm just, saying this because in the past, over and over, the last 20 years, I've seen this being done repeatedly. A lot of students who are not just paying attention during the class, not following the lecture closely, and later on when they are, supposed to do the homeworks, right? And they just simply are clueless what to do, and then they just do it like they do it on the paper. Now, And then they use Excel like as if it is Word file. Because what does that mean? They weren't watching at all. They weren't following the class at all. And then they still think they expect to get some, points for that. No, you don't get any points if you're not doing it exactly the way I taught you. Okay? Bear it in mind. Please bear it in mind that you have to do it exactly like I did. Otherwise, there's not even any partial points, because the whole purpose of this class is learning how to do it on Excel in the right way. Okay? Now, so and some people also wonder, where is the problem? In other words, what they are asking for is the verbiage. Okay? The verbiage is in the textbook examples, right? And we don't like verbiage, right? Because verbiage is like a fluff, a frill or unnecessary, fat. The narrative is quite simple. You should be able to, the point is, you must be able to deal with the data, and just from the data, you should be able to construct a narrative, right, from the data. So if you're looking at a table like this, what is the narrative? It should be obvious to you. You don't need long storytelling, right? You don't need a wordy, verbose verbiage, right? Storytelling. The narrative in verbiage is, for elementary school. Kids need verbiage. Kids need storytelling, right? And without the storytelling, they cannot understand anything. And that's their mental capacity, right? If you are a mature adult, and if your intellect is also mature, then you can do more abstract thinking. And abstract thinking is what? Just by looking at the some skeletal structure, you should be able to tell the story. You should be able to construct a narrative. And from our exercises, you should be able to foster that type of capabilities, because through the exercises, you see the same pattern over and over. And then the narrative should be clear. In this type of problem, what is that? This is the principal. Interest rate is 6%. You put it in the bank for 125 days. And using ordinary interest here, what is the interest? Make sense? So, you should be, this is also part of the training. This is not a, obviously, some people won't find any, pleasure in this type of class. But, training, this is an intellectual training. In other words, being able to, this is the whole, goal of this training is to push your brain to extreme, to push your brain to the limit. And there's probably, some people find it, a pure joy, but most people, it's not a joy ride. Certainly, it's not a joy ride, right? Now, so then again, you don't have to. We know what to do. It's P times R times T, but since we have already done it here, all you need to do is just copy and paste, and voila. Okay, so and let's go to the next example. But this example, this example, you might wonder, isn't that the same example as before? Yeah, the pattern is the same, right? The pattern is the same. But this time, time is given as month or days. Okay, now obviously, so what is this? 3 days? No, this is 3 months actually, 3 months. Okay, so you'll have to convert it into years. I'm gonna that one. So think about it. In this example, right? That's 3 months, right? How do I know? That was the original problem, right? So this one is month. Of course, you might wonder, without any clue, how do we know if it is month? I'm telling you verbally that it is 3 months. Well, I can. The only other way is, by inserting more columns, and for certain column, it is only this is the column of the month, and then there should be column of days, column of weeks, right? But since this is then the model have to be unnecessarily extended. So I'm just letting you know verbally this is this is month and days. For another one, let me change that, and I will do it later. So then you might wonder, then why don't you can't you do can't you express it like that? No. Why? It's a no. Why? You see what happened the minute I added words, right? What happened? Numbers were right aligned, right, or right aligned, but suddenly it's left aligned. What does that mean? That means in Excel, right, numbers are right aligned, texts are left aligned by default. So this means Excel cannot process this anymore because it cannot. It's not recognized as numerical data anymore. Text is not data. Text is not numerical data, and you cannot calculate text. You cannot operate on the text. You understand? So you cannot do this, because if you do this, think about it. You convert it into years, ordinary years. You can't do it. You can't do that, right? There's no way. But that's why okay, I'm annotating it like this. In this case, you can. I said it's a month. It is 3 months. Then what do you need to do? You will divide it by 12, right? If it's 3 months, to convert it into years, you'll have to divide it by 12. And if it is, suppose this is, weeks. Let's make it 13 weeks. If it is 13 weeks, there are 52 weeks in a year. And what do? Right? You divide it by weeks, right? And then that's the same 0.25. Yes, that's true. Um, 3 months is 1/4, right? 3 months is 1/4 of a year, 1/4. 13 weeks is 3 months, right? You might wonder, isn't 12 weeks, yeah, some months are 5 weeks. I mean, there's, some month, 4 weeks are only 28 days, right? And then, some months are 31 days, and most months are 30 days. I mean, these extra 2 days and 3 days, over um, 3 months, that will make another week, right? But actually, it will be slightly different number if you increase. I've been telling you to use 2 to 3 decimal places by default. The reason is, in this case, it's exactly the same. I'm gonna explain that to you later. But let me do this first. So 108, that's obviously 180 days, because there cannot be 180 months or 180 weeks in a year, right? So we divide that by, this time we use exact interest here. I'm giving you a verbal instruction here because to actually we can annotate it, but let me do this first. So I can annotate it, like by adding a comment, right? But people generally don't look into this that much, right? Okay, the comment is there. And then the comment box. I can do the same here, right? Okay. Comment box. Oops, comment box. Okay. All right. Then also I can. Oh, it's like that. They show the comment there. Okay. Okay. Now, so then all we need to do is then again we know what to do. P times R times. Again, T is this, right? Not the other. And then future value is the result of, right, principal and interest, right? And here, this is the primary solution cell. That means you need to find the future value directly, right? So then it's 600 times 1 plus R times P. Okay, there you go. Of course, and also same problem, same future value. You can drag it down. Now this one, then the time is in interest is the difference between the future value and the principal. So there you go. And then you drag it down. Okay, so this way we can find interest when, in the short run, right? And this is, where the simple interest is being used, right? So we will talk about, then there were some, cells, solution cells that were left unanswered. So we're going to go into that in the next video. Okay.